This marble portrait of Eugenie Schäuferlin by Adolf von Hildebrandt was done in 1878. Exhibits a new ideal for the 19th and 20th century of how we view sculpture. Hildebrandt felt the Hellenic Greeks and the Egyptian artists refined their sculpture to fit human vision. He postured that when we perceive an object, we silhouette it from its background, and unlike neo-Baroque sculpture, it should not be necessary to perceive its essence from so many viewpoints. A single frontal approach was paramount. He put his theories into an 1893 publication titled The Problem of Form. These theories were embraced by the next generation of German sculptors and eventually by the French artists leading up to what is now known as Art Deco. Some examples of a fixed viewpoint are Georges Min's Water Carrier, Oscar Strinad's Adam and Eve, and the Atlas figures by Ivan Mestrovich. Mestrovich's work in the first third of the 20th century reflects a departure from the serial sculpture of the 19th century, which involved many craftsmen to bring a work to fruition. Instead, influenced by Michelangelo, he produced individual pieces created by direct carving. These particular sculptures were carved from wild walnut harvested from the site of the family sheep farm, where years later he would erect the family mausoleum. Mestrovich was one of the best-known sculptors of the first half of the 20th century, which resulted in his one-man show at the Metropolitan Museum in 1947. Jacques de Corso, in his essay in the catalogue Metamorphosis, coined the term serial sculpture, meaning sculpture derived from an artist's single model, reproduced by lost wax or sand casting, executed in terracotta, plaster, marble, bronze, or other metals, and made in sizes as small as paperweights to as colossal as the monuments adorning the Louvre. Such editions can be well seen in Carlo Marichetti's silvered bronze of Queen Victoria, which was also a life-size monument in Glasgow. Paul Dubois' Charity was part of a life-size tomb sculpture. Moreau's Exiles, a monumental work in the Tuileries Gardens. All of these examples were offered in various sizes by their editors. The German foundry Gladenbeck in size and quality rivaled that of Barbedian in Paris, with serial editions of both classical period and modern works. Foundries were very secretive about their recipes for their patinations. One of Gladenbeck's specialties was their lustrous dark brown black patina, produced by a heated brushed-on solution of platinum salts. This special patination can be seen in Josef Uppus's Eagle Hunter and Max Kruse's Messenger of Marathon. This type of patina is rarely seen on French bronzes of the period. Gilding and silvering were alternatives to the chemical patinations, that is, the application of salts with heat to a bronze surface. The gilding and chasing of Edmond Lavesque's Slave and Mathurin Moreau's Daphnis and Chloe is intended to approximate the level of ornamentation seen in 18th century bronze doré objects by a 19th century artist. The mixed patinas of Gréber's Narcissus heightens the sculpture's decorative appeal. The silvered bronze Diana by Carrier-Belleuse is a variant. It also appears in bronze doré and patinated bronze, marble, and terracotta. During the 1970s, a new interest in polychromy developed among curators and scholars, and unfortunately it led to a wave of mixed silvering and gilding of bronze sculptures which were never originally conceived in this manner. One must be aware that this did occur, and must carefully judge silvered and gilt bronzes. This Carrier-Belleuse piece has its original silvering. The earliest silvering tends to be much thicker and deeper than later modern adaptations. The same is true for gilding. Carpeau's Fisher Boy brings up another practice in the 19th century. It raises the questions of how legitimate posthumous casts are, or casts made without the direct participation of the artist. It was a common practice in the 19th century for artists to sell their models to a foundry who they trusted to be capable of reproducing their intent. Carpeau was happy to let his foundry handle the commercial editions of his works. Louis-Ernest Barrias frequently supervised the entire production of his works at a foundry. Others would actually go to the foundry and be involved in the casting and chasing processes. In many cases, there are no foundry marks present on a bronze cast, particularly those of Carrière-Belleuse or early Barye. One may assume that the artist felt that these were hands-on casts and that no foundry name was necessary. The estate of an artist after the artist's demise often sold master models to a foundry. This was the case with Carpeau, whose children approached Sus Frères and sold them casting rights to his works. As one can see in these casts, the foundry indeed maintained a level of quality. In the case of Barye, Babetien bought the master models and casting rights upon the artist's death. Though the Babetien casts are very well executed, they generally do not follow the sophistication of the earlier en-marque casts supervised by Barye. One reason was that Barye, in addition to being a sculptor, also was a trained goldsmith and had sophisticated technical priorities. Another posthumous phenomenon can be seen in Messonnier's General Durac at the Battle of Castiglione. In this case, the model was never intended to be edited as a bronze sculpture. It was created as a model to paint from. Like Degas, Messonnier created figures in wax, clothed them in real fabric, and used them for his painted compositions. Within a year of his death, his widow had the piece cast in bronze, her intentions described on the base. This figure can be found in Messonnier's last painting.